quiet was like, it's pretty moving. It's pretty astonishing to have. It's almost terrifying, honestly, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it was intense. It was the Beatles, you know. It was your Beatles moment. It was crazy. What was your favorite part of the day of that concert? I mean, looking back on it, especially since we're now in 2021 and there aren't any live concerts, what did it make you feel sentimental watching it? I mean, Chris, you want to do that one?
Yeah, nothing about the day felt like a normal show or a normal concert. Like the whole thing felt more like for lack of better words, like a homecoming or like a reunion. It felt, I've never felt that way at a show before. It was, it had more of a
gravitas.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
I thought it was really fun. We were staying at a hotel a couple blocks away, and throughout the day, kind of coming and going back and forth to the stage and whatnot, just to check on things and sound check. And I thought it was so fun to throughout the day, from the early morning until we played, to just slowly see like the street get a little more filled up. Kids sitting down waiting from early on in the day. It was just really cool to kind of like watch that progression throughout the day until like the actual moment when it was there in full and we were doing it.
Yeah.
Do you feel? Go ahead.
Sorry, it was that to build off of what Kenny was saying. It reminds me of when we're on tour, and like there is this sort of badge of honor you almost feel a little bit like when you load in, you sound check, and in between sound check and the show, you sort of have the keys to this place for the evening, and the crew eventually gets to know your face, and just kind of feels good to have like a bit of a trust in a relationship, and it's almost like, I don't know, it's like it's your little place for the day. But I remember also walking around, right there. I mean, it's such an iconic part of the city as well. And just kind of walking by and be like, is that person here for the show, or are they just here to get a magazine? Is this person here? Like, it was just like on such a much larger scale, that sort of feeling of like, I don't know, partial, like temporary ownership over a space. But it was like Chris was saying, it was like no other feeling of any other show before, but just to see it like sort of, if you could do a time lapse of it or something, I don't know, to that magnitude was really, really interesting. And it's also humbling because you realize how, like, sure, it's sort of you guys are putting on the event, but it really is made by that many people coming and being there. You know what I mean? They really made that show, even more so, I think, than you normally feel.
So for those who have seen the trailer of the film, Josiah makes an appearance in the film, and we're lucky to have Josiah here with us today. So tell me, Josiah, what was it like to be back with everybody? I mean, all of you together, and there you are. So tell me a little about, Dave, from your perspective.
The day that show happened, I watched it on Instagram from home in Oakland, and we got together. I didn't know that it was going to happen when the show happened, and it was like 6 months later that we got together to kind of go through these old spots that we had been really crucial to us when we were starting out. And I was, I think, really nervous. Like I talked to John and like sometimes Tyler and Kenny and Chris, like occasionally when I like need to know about bass strings or like Central Washington or golfing. But like we haven't they're really busy and we're a little less connected. So I was like nervous to see whether or not we would be friends, like whether or not we would feel like friends or whether or not it would like feel, yeah, and like wanting it to, and so having kind of this attachment to like hoping it goes well, and then kind of like, and then like this feeling of relief where, and I think there was also like, I'm also remembering that there was this desire to kind of go like, in the 10 years. There was this I left the band, and like the band knew some of that story, but like a lot of people don't. And I felt like I wanted to I've heard a lot of people have a lot of ideas about like why I left the band, but none of them felt accurate. And so I wanted to kind of put that out there in like a positive way.
Yeah.
And I was like nervous about like telling that story well. It's like hard to talk about, that difficult part of time for everyone. And I like wanted to do justice to them and to like how they handled it and to me and how I handle it. And so
it's so powerful when we were interviewing you for the documentary and you did talk about it, that you just, it's to me, it's one of the more real and human moments of the whole documentary. I mean, while you were doing that, did you have any reluctance to be that honest?
No.
How about the rest of you?
Are you telling the truth?
No, there's no reluctance to be that honest. It's just you don't necessarily have access to that all the time. And I just like kind of prayed for the clarity to like tell the story, and like it was there, and sometimes it wouldn't always be there. So it was nice that it was there.
Yeah, no, it's really powerful.
I remember being in the room at Litho, the studio, when you were giving at least one of your interviews. And I think we had probably already done a few earlier in the day. And Litho is the studio where we recorded the rhythm basically like the drums and bass of the first album, and then did all of Let's Be Still there. So we were quite familiar with that spot, but we hadn't been back in a while. And so it was nice to be familiar. But I remember sitting in that room, also kind of wondering if I was allowed to be in the room while you were giving your interview, or should I give you space? I think I did a little bit of both. But I just remember thinking,
when you were listening.
Okay, good. Well, see, I can tell because I was like,
yeah.
I just remember thinking like you are crushing it, and like I just remember wanting to go back and do everything I'd done over again because it was so inspiring to see how honest and open. And I mean, I know what you mean with that feeling of like just praying that you have the clarity in those moments. Like, sure, you want to be that honest, and sure, you want to show up in that way. And you did a great job, I think, Josiah. Yeah, it was inspiring to watch, but it's also so overwhelming to like. Yeah, the whole thing and all of these interviews really was like, it was almost like a fun house of a day or two getting these interviews with everyone. And I don't know. It was an interesting patchwork. I don't really know where I'm going with this anymore. I just wanted to good job, essentially. And I remember being there. I was there. Sorry.
I know. I think the best part was just all the chemistry, the chemistry that you see between everybody when you watch the documentary. Well, it just crackles. So I think that will surprise people when I see that and how real it is and how nothing is held back. I mean, there were things I didn't think that you'd answer, and you all answered. So to me, it's really powerful. So John, what was the genesis of even doing this documentary film and having the concert there in August? I mean, like, where'd the light bulb go off that you should do this and film it?
Anyone else, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say it was an idea from Charity, right? I feel like she threw out this like swing for the fences idea, and we almost chuckled, and management just being like, "Hey, we'll ask." And it was, sort of a drawn out process. It wasn't something where they were just immediately like, "Yes, we can do that." Basically a lot of people had to ask a lot of questions and, look into permits and is it something you're allowed to do, and then what are the logistics to make it happen. And I think we were sort of in and out of touring as this is evolving, as our management and people at Amazon and people in the city are working on it. And then at some point we got an answer that they were actually going to let us do it. So then we had to really brainstorm of like, okay, what does that look like?
And afterwards, I mean, we didn't even know what we were really going to do about a documentary or anything like that. So I think we were just so focused on just capturing that day on top of the roof of Pike Place that, everything else came later. I think it was kind of like 6 months between the day that we played that show and then when we all got together back in Seattle to kind of talk to you and hang out with each other and reconnect. So, the original spark was just that show. That was kind of the idea. And then it just morphed into this bigger monster of a thing, and thank God it did, because Josiah made me cry. I mean, like we heard things that I heard things from each other that, you know, I had never heard before. And yeah, I mean, it was healing in a way that you rarely find in moments around work or around, like, you know, performing a show or doing a documentary. It was just healing. It was kind of a great feeling. Yeah, and watching it back, I still get that feeling.
Oh no,
feeling.
I want to tell everybody before they even see it tonight, like all these great moments. I'm keeping my mouth shut, but there's the part where Josiah and John are playing the piano together. I mean, who among us didn't cry? I mean, that's the thing. It's a crier. It's just like the emotion is just there. The emotion that makes the great songs is actually in all the interviews. So it's amazing. So Kenny, you all don't live in the same place or haven't lived in the same place for a long time, but this is even more severe with the pandemic. Everyone's forced into isolation. How do you all stay connected, and what's your relationship like now?
I mean, we stay connected like most people do from afar, you know, lots of Zoom calls, lots of meetings, lots of texting and whatnot back and forth. Way more than we normally would because we have to, and it's our only option, you know? But yeah, we were just talking about this earlier. I feel like in a lot of ways, the space and having to work through so much and work remotely has given us. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm cutting up. It's kind of strengthened, I think, all of our bond. We've become like much better communicators. The stress that we normally kind of can live in touring so much and being on the road is non-existent right now because we aren't able to do that. And so I think these walls that are normally kind of up and somehow separate us and our ability to grow closer aren't there right now. So in a lot of ways, I think we've all grown much closer and more tighter. And that makes the future so much more exciting in my mind, because I think once we have the chance finally to get back together and do what we do, we're going to be coming at it from a much more mature place and going to be ready for it. And yeah.
So do you make sure like you wash your hair prior to the Zoom calls? I mean, did you guys start dressing up from them in the beginning, or was it just like, roll out of bed?
I took one a few days ago from the bathtub, so.
Yeah. And it worked out.
Yeah, bubble bath.
It was so relaxed. It was amazing.
Yeah, they're pretty casual as long as you make them.
Yeah. So Chris, the last album, you pretty much lit the spark of when you went to Joshua Tree and had ideas of what you thought that the album should sound like. So are you having that same kind of situation now? It's like, what are you thinking in terms of new music? I mean, is there something you hear in your head that you've been communicating to the rest of everybody about what it's going to be like?
I think we're finding it collectively right now, which is more exciting than having an individual focus or idea or direction. I feel like we've found it naturally, which is incredible. And I feel like we're kind of we kind of like shot out the shotgun shell of like, let's try this, let's try all these things. And not to say that any one is worse or better, but I feel like we're all kind of seeing what is really working and feeling good. And that's like the most exciting thing is I feel like there's a consensus of vision rather than a singular trying to, pull people in.
It feels like we found the secret sauce, just to add on to that, Chris. Like we were talking about this the other day, like it feels like we now have the framework of something really great for the future and we know how to get there. So that's been super exciting over the last even just 2 weeks where we've kind of stumbled upon that a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited.
Are you guys co-writing? I mean, are you doing like actual co-writes on Zoom together, or is your process different?
Yeah,
we've done, I mean, both.
Yeah, it was, you're sort of forced to, I mean, there's still like, just sending sessions. It's been really interesting though. I mean, what was really lovely to have the opportunity was like, we were set up in April. We were all going to go to Bear Creek, outside of Seattle and get together and work on new music. And when we realized that was going to be a bad idea, we took those funds and just split them up between all of us equally, and just got gear that we would need so that we could sort of send things remotely, have the same interfaces, have sort of a like stock, like we need these kinds of mics, we need to be able to do these things. And it was definitely a lot of, one step forward, two steps back. I mean, if you think about it, the amount of things that we are now required to do versus just being a band in a room, as well as you can't be a band in a room. It was a struggle at first, but I feel like because we all sort of had to figure it out and persevere together, honestly, yeah, like Chris was saying, and Tyler and everyone's been saying, I mean, this the collective vision, finding it together and finding out what doesn't work together. Somehow we're able to do that even more now than we were in the past. I think when we all tour and everyone has different sort of thresholds when they're in between tours, of like some people are like really excited to get back to music immediately, and others are like, in order for me to be good on this next tour, I need to not think about music. And those are all fair. So it's a staggered thing, and right now it's cool because we all still give each other that space, but we're like kind of going at the same pace, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I think we also just to add on real quick, I think we kind of lucked out before the pandemic and before we knew that the world was going to be shut down. In January and February, we spent some time as a band writing and working together, assuming that we were going to be doing a lot of touring and that we'd get a head start. And we'd ended up obviously not doing the touring, but because of those chunks of time together, the last time we saw each other, I feel like we came into this year like at least having a bunch of ideas out there and a bunch of songs like that half finished or 3/4 finished. So we didn't really have to start totally from scratch and remote. We like had the foundation for a lot there, and we were able to work off of that, which I think was a huge help.
The weirdest thing to me, though, is that, there's such a learning curve with having our own home studios now. We all have had to learn how to become engineers of our own music. So in a lot of ways, it's taught us kind of what works in our music and what doesn't. There's, it's really like you actually hear it now and you see it on a screen and you have to deal with it in a different way than we've ever dealt with our own music before. And I think it's just taught us so much it's taught us a lot about the technical side of recording, but also just like we have to be in tune with each other over thousands of miles to make something that sounds cohesive, and it's super interesting and truly the definition of bedroom pop. We're like making bedroom pop, but it's on such a grand scale, and it's like the head and the heart, but it's I'm just excited about it. I love it.
I had the moment today where like I was listening to a mix of a song that we're working on, and it just kind of like, it blew my mind because it was something we had worked on remotely, and it just sounded so good. And I thought about like a year ago this time, I was calling up our go-to sound guru, Tim Smiley. And it was like about this time, and I was just like, Tim, like I'm at home, kind of want to get into recording, like how do I plug my guitar into GarageBand? Like, which is like, how far we've come in a year is, it's, I don't know. I'm just proud of.
Is it hard to do the harmonies? I mean, how does that work remotely?
I was going to make a joke, but it wasn't very good. I mean, it's just like anything else. I mean, because we're all sort of in sync with the gear, we basically we fly things around, and sort of someone will kind of take lead at some point. Like Maddie's really, really great. Maddie's he's really great at like a lot of the music knowledge, like technical stuff that I personally have no clue what to do. So everyone is kind of really good at certain things, and so whoever has those strengths will sort of let them lead the project. Or but with harmonies, I mean, it's you basically like you track your part, and then you fly the session back, and if it works, then they add their part as well. Great. And if it doesn't, you kind of get on a Zoom and you discuss like, what do we want to change? So that's the one step forward, two steps back. Sometimes it's lateral, sometimes
everything takes 2 weeks, pretty much.
Everything takes like 2 months, dude. What are you talking about? Like harmonies. Really great. No, but that's the funny thing though, is like starting it up, it took a long time to where I know that I, at least at one point, was just like, we can't do this. We got to get back in a room. And I think it was just a weak moment on my part. Luckily, we kept persevering, and we kept figuring it out. But yeah, harmonies just like adding a piano part, you know.
Well, you know what? Going to harmonies, there's a really powerful part in the film where you're busking that Josiah already talked about. But can you tell me a little bit about that? I mean, what was your day like when you're busking the first time? You know, when the three of you would go busk, or more than three? Didn't it start initially with Charity, Josiah, and John, and then like Kenny, you came in?
I would go hang out and like watch him here and there and kind of wander around, but
make sure no one stole any cash out of the guitar case.
Yeah, I'm not a singer, so I didn't join in, but I was there some of those days.
Did we ever do one with you on accordion, Kenny?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
So Josiah, tell me a little bit about
your dreams.
I forgot about the accordion.
Yeah, it must have been a dream.
So tell me a little bit about Josiah, like when you did it initially, you know, like where the idea came from.
John, do you remember that time that we were at a radio station in LA and they asked us about busking and we were like, we already talked about that on the first record. Why are we talking about it now?
Oh,
sorry.
that NPR interview?
Yeah.
That was a low point. I used to be really bad at interviews, man.
Sorry, that's not. I'm not trying to drag you through it. I'm just laughing.
Yes, you are.
It's fair. Air it out, man.
You're giving it out.
Relive this.
Well, now you have your chance for redemption. Now you can show me how much you've grown.
Revenge.
But
haha. No. I mean, we would go down to there's like at Pike Place Market, they have like 7 musical notes painted on the ground that are kind of like stations where you're only allowed to busk at that spot. And oftentimes those are full like any day that people are in the market. Someone has most of those spots gone, except for the one that's like where there's no foot traffic downstairs below the bathrooms where it smells and it's echoey and there's no one down there, but it's echoey.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Sounds great. No one walks by you. You make no money, but you can work on your tunes.
Yeah. So we would go down there because we didn't have to. We were impatient, which served us, and in some ways. And so we'd play, and we'd probably make like 5. If we made like enough money to get like 2 Piroshkis, I feel like it was a really good day.
Mm-hmm. I feel like, didn't you finally get, like, somehow you were always in charge of, like, the things, but, like, didn't you finally get a busking license and we bust, like, maybe one more time? Because almost out of, we were like, I feel like we have to do it one more time.
So hard.
We're legal now.
Yeah, we did do that illegally for a long time. We definitely were vigilantes.
Yeah, I feel like it's like fishing. Like, how do you know? How are you ever going to know?
I mean, you guys should have just played the roof from the start, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what were you thinking?
Did you guys get your busking license for that one?
It's a gigantic.
No, but I think whatever permits we needed probably took a lot longer.
Yeah.
But,
we were basically just busking up there.
Yeah,
it's true.
It really is, again, one of the really strong parts of the film. Just the harmonies that the three of you have is just chill-inducing. So, did you feel like you were having flashbacks when you were?
That was really fun.
Time? Yeah,
that was really fun. Yeah, I think that was like early morning or something like that.
That was very early.
Yeah,
like a little rough. But yeah, that was really great to do. And it was also really great to have people walk by and kind of recognize what was happening. And that felt kind of special to have like people that love the band catch that moment too.
Do you think they knew it was you? I mean, obviously there were cameras, but I mean, do you think that
they probably thought we were a cover band, honestly. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, like, I was watching. I was kind of standing back, and there were people who knew the words. There were people who just walked up with like their kids because they were at the market that morning, and there were quite a few people who were like kind of blown away that we were playing, like you guys were busking there, but also that Josiah was singing with John and Charity. I think there were a lot of people who knew some of the details of how, you know, the last 5 or 6 years have gone. And I think to see them singing together, and I mean, you nailed it. Like the harmonies, it's magic when they're together. You know, it's like, I remember reading Graham Nash's book about when Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young sang together for the first time, and they were like, "Whoa, what does that sound like? That's not. I haven't heard that. The way the voices blend together, it creates this unique sound." And I just got that feeling in that moment. I was like, "Oh shit, I know what Graham Nash is talking about right now." You know, I haven't heard them together in years. It was special.
No, it was really powerful. Nice. So,
is that Big Matty or like Neil Young then?
That works.
Like Matty's Neil Young.
Neil Young.
I mean, he's definitely the one that can shred better than anyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I still like David Crosby's always the one I like in terms of the vocals in that band.
He's a weirdo.
Yeah.
He's Twitter.
I love it. It's so good.
Well, I like him because he's like a F. Never mind. Okay, we're gonna move on, Kenny. I know you love to travel, and you went to China when you took a break a few years ago. Again, like among everybody, is the quarantine really affecting you more? Are you plotting like virtual travel? Like, where's the first place that you're going once this is all over?
Yeah, it's been kind of tough because I do like to travel and adventure, and I've done like the China Kung Fu School that you have heard of, and some other things. But it's a little tough having so much time off and not being able to take advantage of it and do some of these things that are on my list. But at the same time, it's actually been really, really great in the sense that I think I always thought that you had to do some massive excursion or adventure to like gain experience or a lesson from travel and improve your life. And I've realized that like there's so many amazing places 2-3 hours drive for me that I never go to, you know. It's like you don't need to go to China and spend a month at a Shaolin temple to gain like a good experience. You can also drive into the woods and spend a weekend in your own state. And I think it's kind of made me realize, because it's my only option right now. And I'm like really getting more into just doing close trips. And I look forward to some big time adventures for sure. But for now, I'm just happy with what I have. And I feel fortunate to live in the great state of California.
Wait, so where'd you go? Like, where's the best place you went?
Oh, I don't know. I just done some camping trips up in the mountains. I was up in Mammoth area last week, hiked up to some hot springs, and it was really nice.
So Chris, yeah, right.
Huh?
Which hot springs?
Bro.
I know the hot springs.
Yeah, it's called like Wild Willie's or something.
Yeah. Great. Okay, move on.
I was there last Saturday. I was there.
I don't know what that is.
It's pretty popular.
The nudist camp?
Yeah, it could be.
Josiah's there.
Yeah.
So what do you think,
Sorry,
Chris, what do you think this year of isolation, how it's going to affect the return to live music for you guys, but for every musician? I mean, do you think this will change how you are as performers?
I think so. I've heard a lot of people, like musicians, interviews, talk about this, and I feel the same way too. It's like, I don't think we necessarily took touring for granted, but I think because of how much we toured, you kind of just like, it wasn't going through the motions, but I don't think we appreciated it as much as we probably could have been if we had planned it better, put a little more breaks, really like cherish those moments. But I think now with taking this long off the road, I think we're going to cherish it more, but then also plan better so we don't just like get back into the grind where you just get run down and tired. And I don't know. I think we're going to do it better when it starts again. I think we're going to plan it better. I think we're going to feel, I'm excited for what this is going to do for touring in the future. I think it's going to make us realize some things and sort of, do it better.
A better place too. Like that's another aspect of it is like, you know, since we kind of started back in Ballard in 2009, we haven't gotten a lot of time to kind of grow up or like figure out who we are. And I think that's a large part of like the growth that we've all done together in the last year. And that's what I'm kind of excited to like be closer to these people, you know, in my band. That's the weird thing about this break. It's like we're so far apart, yet we've never been closer. So I think it's gonna be cool to see how our relationships have changed after that time away.
Yeah. Well, speaking of growing up, you had a daughter recently.
I did.
How has that impacted things? I mean, how does it change the way you look at your career and, just yourself as a father?
I definitely see, like, I think everyone kind of like, this is going to sound crazy. I don't know, maybe psychobabble, but like, I think everyone gets into playing music for like some feeling of a void, like, and my void was kind of like attention or love or whatever. And I feel like it was kind of an ego thing. It drives your ego to look for attention, to look for the thing that you want that's not filling this void that you have. And now I feel like I get that love from my kid, and it's really changed how I feel like I approach the band members here or just my life in general. It just feels like I'm not looking to fill some void. I'm like, I feel whole for, I don't know. I feel whole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good answer. Love it.
Yeah.
I feel like on
Go
top
ahead.
also, I mean, I don't know how this is my reference because I only recently got into basketball, but I remember reading somewhere or hearing somewhere when LeBron James was talking about how he used to like his drive in games used to be like anger, which I relate to. That was my spark. That was my drive. And it got me far and it got me through gates where I probably would have chickened out or whatever. But at some point that became pretty like detrimental to everyone around me. And I feel like I've kind of made this shift where like I do it out of joy now. And I'm so excited to like, give that respect back to the band, but also to myself and to fans. I feel like I agree with Chris. I don't think I took it for granted, but I don't think I knew how to like nurture it or even what to do with it. It made me uncomfortable because I'm up there like sort of diffusing this anger, this like proving it to someone, this invisible figure that I always will have to prove something to. And that doesn't jive with people who are just loving being there. It doesn't connect. There was no landing. They shouldn't have been in the same party. So I'm personally so stoked to get back and like be on the same level of people that are just there to be happy and to like experience this feeling of joy and transcendentalism on the best day, So, yeah, I'm so excited to be able to do it again.
I gotta say too, I never would have guessed, or I never would have believed you if you told me 5 years ago that John would be texting me about NBA basketball frequently. Never would have believed it.
Shout out Warriors.
If he's not texting about basketball, he's definitely sending you a podcast about home recording.
Or UFOs.
Or UFOs.
Guys, that was off the record.
Yeah, nobody's listening.
Hey, I'm a believer,
Josiah, you've had quite a journey to wholeness, coming back into the light. I mean, what's this time been like for you to move towards something, to move towards wholeness after feeling so fragmented for so long?
Well, this is actually it's kind of crazy, but this is actually in 4 days I'll have been sober for a year, which was like not something that ever happened. Like the last 5 years,
high five.
I was trying, high five, and I was trying for a long time, and just like something wasn't clicking, and I related a lot to what people were saying about like something missing and feeling like you have to like run after it, or and even when like anyways, this year being forced to really slow down was like the first time that I really gave myself permission to like, I just like had to be with all of my running tendencies. And so I don't know what your question was, but that's been a really great.
you came face to face to.
I guess, but I think it's this year, and not like there was literally nothing to work towards. It's like wanting. There was nothing to do other than like be in my life. Like I definitely have always been like a dreamer, planning ahead, like what's coming next, like how do I get to there kind of person. And and I like had no way. There's no way to do that. Like I can't plan for anything, in the pandemic, and so I just had to like be in my life, be happy where I was. If I wasn't like that, like take responsibility for like changing that, and like learn how to love the people around me. And yeah, that was unexpected and cool.
It's good to see. So
Yeah.
I'm going to start winding down this a little bit, but tell me, Tyler, after looking at the film, what do you think that fans are going to be surprised to learn about you guys once they watch it? Is there some quality? Is there some
Tears, lots
backstory?
of tears.
Talk a little bit about that, like the tears.
I think we've all kind of touched on it a little bit as we've talked here, but yeah, I think it was a lot of vulnerability that I don't think we allow each other to see sometimes in our day-to-day lives, and Josiah put it really well where he said he had the clarity, to speak honestly. And I think it kind of allowed us all a safe space to do that, in a way it was like therapy, for sure. And yeah, I mean, I'm getting chills right now just thinking about the amount of like just real shit that we worked through in front of some cameras. So it's cool, for sure.
I mean, it wasn't like you were even concealing anything. It wasn't hard to extract things. It was like you'd all seemed to have made a group decision to be that real.
Well, it felt ready.
Honest.
It felt like,
yeah,
in a way, that built up to that moment to come out. And yeah, I mean, it just kind of, and in some ways, I think the beauty of this group of people is like the fact that we can come together on the same page without talking about something, somehow find a direction musically without talking about it. We somehow feel similar things at similar times and we release them, or it just seems like there's this weird way of it all working out,
Yeah, there's a part when Josiah and Maddie are on film and Josiah talks about Maddie holding his place, and that was a really sweet moment in the interview. Does that mean that you might show up sometime again in this configuration, Josiah? I mean, could you show up along this long road that the head and the heart are on?
I feel funny about like holding I feel funny about that phrasing, because I think when Maddie first joined the band, that was the idea, was like was that he was like just he was like giving the band the gift of like just like playing a supporting role, and he thought that he was just like holding space and waiting for me to get better and come back or something like that. And I think that it's not like that. I think it hasn't been that way for a long time. Like he's not like holding space. I don't think that he's holding space for me. I think that was like the spirit that he came in with, but he's kind of like become his own member of the band. I'm on the outside looking in, but I'm pretty sure that that's the case. So
for sure, yeah.
But the second part of your question is about whether or not like people will see me down the road, and like here I am. You are seeing me down the road. So obviously, like I think it's like apparent that we are like connected in some sort of weird family cosmic way, like Tyler was just saying. And also, I think there's like leaving the band and then kind of like leaving the band again. It's like there was this like weird thing where it was just like the time is not right. And I think I'm as curious as anyone, like what will happen in the future. And so, yeah, I don't have a strong answer for you, but I think we're all not like thinking people. We're like all intuitive people, and that like hinders us in the sense that like I can't just say like I think that this should happen. But like sometimes when things feel right to do, like being a part of this documentary, or like seeing John, because he lives across the bay from me, and playing, and like reaching out about playing music sometime, like those things happen, and I'm curious to see where all of that stuff goes, but I have no way of knowing. And it's like you're asking me, but like this is their band, so like
I think you said like an interesting point. I feel like fans ask all the time, this question: when's it going to happen? Will it happen? Is it a possibility? And I think it is true that the question, it's just as much of a question to all of us. Like we love you, and that's never changed, and that very well could happen down the road. But like we don't know that it could not happen. Like. It's still like to be revealed for us as well as anybody that follows us. So.
No, it makes sense. And, you wouldn't really want to know the outcome. I mean, if you all knew that, then what? Then what are we doing here? Like, I like the
then
mystery.
Life would be boring.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Stories yet to be written.
Yeah, exactly. I've got some fan questions. Kate on Instagram asks, if you could tell yourself from 10 years ago one thing, what would it be? So, John, you want to take that one?
Think about those podcasts you've been listening to. They ask
I know. Yeah, I know. There's this podcast that I'm obsessed with. It's called like Recording Studio Rockstars or something. Shout out to Liz Shaw. I've been meaning to reach out to him and just be like, dude, I love your podcast. It's Scat of Nashville.
Yeah.
And he always, he asked this question at the end, like, what would you, if you could go in a time, if you could jump into a time capsule and go back 10 years, what would you tell yourself? I don't know. It's it's funny. It's like sometimes I have a friend in New York, and she goes to this. It's not. She doesn't actually go to this palm reader. It's like a phone call thing, and she gets her fortune read. And I don't know how I feel about that kind of thing, because I don't know. Like, would I change anything? Probably, but what would you change? This is a terrible response.
3 words. You get 3 words.
I feel like
bad at 3 words.
in that podcast, I feel like the answers are always, they seem so cliche, and then like hearing that question, I'm like, oh, how would I answer that? And it's like, it's so cliche. It's like, stick with it. Just trust in yourself.
Yeah. It's like athlete interviews, like after a game, it's like always just the same exact, but they're true.
Then you think about it and it's like, oh man, that would probably what I would tell myself is like, just keep doing it and keep failing and succeeding and failing and succeeding and failing and succeeding.
Yeah. I would be like 10 years ago, like, okay, like grow your hair out, get a grill, start rapping, call yourself Post Malone. And then you're super famous.
Get paid away.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Put all my money in Tesla.
Exactly. Okay.
Stay curious, and which I think is waxes and wanes.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I think one of my strongest gifts, I think anyone who lets themselves do this, and I think everybody does from time to time, is like when you allow yourself that curiosity. Even if it makes you look kind of stupid in a room, you usually learn so much, and it catapults you forward in ways that it would take so much strategizing and time to do that intentionally. I think when you remain curious, for instance, when we met Kenny, this is where I got to give shout out to Josiah for being one of the most shameless, curious people I've ever met in my life. And when we met Kenny the night after he saw us playing together at Conor Byrne, it wasn't a curious moment for me, and that could have really been super detrimental. But luckily, Josiah was Kenny came up and was super nice and super open, and saying yo, I play piano. I just moved up here from LA, and Josiah was like, oh, awesome! Music Mondays, you should come by. And I was just kind of like, okay, I guess so. I don't care. But I've had moments where I'm incredibly curious, incredibly open, and then I'll have a pendulum swing. And if you trace those steps back, your life usually moves so much clearer or in such a better way when you're open and when you're curious. So right now, I feel like I'm in a spot. I feel like a lot of us are. Those downward spirals are usually when you kind of shut off. So. Mm-hmm. Try and stay open, try and stay curious. That's it.
That was good. That's good advice.
Yeah.
Okay, Tiffany on Instagram asks, what does the future hold for the head and the heart? Tyler, you want to do that one?
The future holds a lot of music. We know that. I mean, we're not done. We feel like this is like the first chapter. This is a nice cap. With this documentary, this performance, seeing Josiah with us and feeling his love and energy, and it's like we turned the page. We're on to the next chapter. And
blank slate.
Yeah, blank slate, and like we keep saying, it's yet to be written. Like the music is the only thing we really have control over. Everything else is out there.
Yeah, very metaphysical, but very true. So thanks, Tiffany. Okay, Emily on Facebook asked, what would you count as your biggest musical success, song, performance? Chris, what do you think the biggest success? Like what do you look back at and go, wow, you really hit a home run there?
I think recording Honeybee to me is one of my, feels like a pretty big accomplishment. I remember when I first heard the song, I think John sent it over, and I think it was just a cappella, and
Floor Stomp's hand
song
clap.
was that?
Oh, and Floor Stomp's hand clap.
Yeah.
Don't forget it.
So right off the bat, I without a single instrument other than percussion, I just thought the song was so good. And it set such a high bar, and the first time I heard it, I was like, we better not mess this up. Like we better rise to the caliber of this songwriting. And it was kind of difficult, and I think we all sort of realized we had to get out of our comfort zones a little to really support the song. Mm-hmm. And just the way we put it together, arranged it, I thought we just sort of left ourselves behind and sort of totally let the song direct us. Mm-hmm. I just feel really just proud of how we were able to do that, to be able to forget who we were, who we want to be, and just really just let the song guide us. And I thought we all did that incredibly well. And it's one of my favorite songs that we've recorded, if not my favorite,
Wow.
I do want to add, I got to give a shout out to Rin Weaver, who is a friend who we've sort of started writing, had other people writing sometimes, and it allows us to be influenced and to move left and right, forward and back. So I just got to give credit to a really talented writer and Rin Weaver.
Yeah. So again, what did you learn, Tyler, what did you learn about the head and the heart after filming this documentary?
Man, I don't know. I just think there were a lot of moments that I hadn't heard, like the truth or the honesty, the level of I think I learned that we don't have to have these walls, I think sometimes when we're on tour, we put up walls for security, for safety, and I think it just kind of makes you think hey, why can't it just be like this? Why can't we just say what we mean all the time? So I think I realized we're able to do that. We have the ability. And we don't have to talk about things just through songs. I feel like we use songs in the past to communicate how we feel about each other. Yeah. So.
Well, I think, it's not like you had to go hire Dr. Phil like Metallica did in some kind of monster. I think organically it's
we just needed you, Jan.
Yeah, exactly.
And a bunch of cameras and a performance on top of Pike Place Market. Yeah.
Exactly.
I do want to say something to that too. I wish Charity was here. She's her and Maddie are being close to some family right now, but I wish she was here. I just want to give her some love, because one thing I learned from doing that, whether it was the documentary or being on top of that roof, just watching how genuinely connected to that performance she was, and how meaningful it was to her, and
for her hometown,
for her hometown, and just I mean, I don't know. I almost feel like I kind of forgot like all of the rings, all of the ripple effects that come with performing and writing a song, singing a song, connecting with people. She was just channeling that so purely. That honestly was one of the biggest sparks for me that entire time was her. And hopefully she sees this because that was you, girl.
Aw, that's really great. Well, I think that's it for tonight. So, but nobody go anywhere because right after this on Twitch, there's going to be the premiere on an Amazon Music Twitch page right after the Q&A. So go there. You're going to be so blown away by this. It just crackles. It's better than a reality TV show. I mean, you will find out things that you can't even believe they said. I mean, it's amazing. So congratulations. You guys did a great job.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you so
Love
much,
you guys.
Thanks, Jan.
Okay.
See everyone.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning.
Bye.
Bye.